Welcome to Imperial History, the podcast where we explore the epic stories of empires that shaped the world, from their triumphant rises to their dramatic falls. I'm your host, Eric Alexander. Emperor Nero is remembered by many as one of the most evil rulers of the ancient world, a tyrant whose notorious deeds were immortalized by the very enemies who sought to tarnish his legacy. The accounts of his reign come largely from hostile sources, leaving us to wonder if he was truly a monster of unmatched cruelty or simply a man unfairly maligned by history's victors. These sources detail a ruler who blurred the lines between sovereign and performer, transforming his role into an elaborate stage show that scandalized the Roman elite and captivated the common people alike. Nero's rule was marked by relentless suspicion and brutal purges. He saw conspiracies in every shadow, and his response was swift and unforgiving, targeting both genuine plotters and innocent bystanders. Obsessed with opulence, he commissioned the magnificent Domus Aurea, his golden house, a palace of dazzling luxury that stood in stark contrast to the suffering of a people who watched their beloved city burn. During the Great Fire of Rome, as the flames devoured entire neighborhoods, Nero is said to have remained idle, his inaction overshadowed only by the subsequent decision to lay the blame on the burgeoning Christian sect. This accusation sparked a persecution whose grim legacy echoes through the ages. The grisly tales do not end there. Legends assert that Nero was responsible for the death of his own mother, Agrippina, a deed that shocked even the hardened denizens of Rome. His cruelty extended into his personal relationships as well. He is alleged to have murdered his first two wives, one of whom was pregnant with his child. In an act that defies all convention, he is even said to have castrated a slave boy and taken him as a husband, choosing the youth for his uncanny resemblance to the wife he had slain. Such stories, whether fully true or the product of politically motivated exaggeration, have long cemented Nero's reputation as a figure of unbridled savagery. Yet Nero's reign was not solely defined by acts of personal brutality. On the military and diplomatic fronts, he demonstrated a keen, if ruthless, acumen. He oversaw the war against Parthia by sending his capable general Corbulo into battle, a campaign that eventually secured a lasting peace and culminated in a treaty outlining the method by which the ruler of Armenia would be determined. On the distant frontiers of the empire, Nero's strategic decisions left their mark as well. The rebellion led by Boudicca in Britain was decisively quashed by General Paulinus, reaffirming Rome's grip on its territories. Simultaneously, the Judean revolt was met with the formidable resolve of General Vespasian, whose actions ensured that unrest in the region would not spiral out of control. The political landscape within Rome itself was no less turbulent. The infamous Piso conspiracy, a vast network of plots and counterplots, implicated many, including members of Corbulo's family, thereby deepening the climate of mistrust and prompting further purges. Amid this relentless storm of intrigue and violence, Nero managed to maintain a significant degree of popularity among the population of the city of Rome, who found themselves both enthralled by his dramatic displays of power and reassured by his effective, if harsh, methods in securing Rome's borders and keeping dissent at bay. In the provinces, things were different. A rebellion erupted in Gaul and Hispania that would ultimately unravel Nero's reign. It began when Vindex, the governor of Gallia Lugdunensis, rose up against the oppressive fiscal policies and autocratic excesses that had come to define Nero's rule. His revolt, fueled by long-standing grievances over heavy taxation and mismanagement, quickly ignited a wider crisis. Seizing the moment, Galba, the governor of Hispania Tarraconensis, declared himself emperor and rallied the loyalty of legions disillusioned by Nero's erratic governance. The Senate, alarmed by the cascading dissent and emboldened by the promise of change, swiftly declared Nero an enemy of the people. Even the Praetorian Guard, the protectors of the emperor, turned away from their sovereign, aligning instead with the Senate's repudiation of Nero. Isolated and abandoned by both the political elite and the military, Nero's position became untenable. Aware that capture would lead to a fate far worse than death, an ignominious public humiliation that would forever tarnish his legacy, the emperor resolved to end his own life. On June 9th, 68 AD, with his back firmly against the wall, Nero chose suicide as his final act, a desperate bid to reclaim a semblance of control over a destiny that had spiraled irrevocably out of his grasp. The death of Nero marked not merely the end of an emperor's life, but the collapse of the Julio-Claudian Dynasty, the very family that had produced both Caesar and Augustus. With Nero's passing, a monumental chapter in Roman history was abruptly closed. Every Roman had lived under the rule of a member of this venerable lineage, and now the future of the empire hung in a delicate balance. Would Rome be plunged into a perpetual cycle of civil war reminiscent of the turbulent times before Augustus? Or could it somehow return to the old republican ideals, even though no formal constitution ever existed? The Principate, after all, maintained only the illusion of a republic while concentrating power in the hands of a single ruler. In the power vacuum that ensued, a dramatic struggle unfolded. Within the span of a single year, 4 men would be declared emperor by the Senate, each seizing the mantle of leadership amid intense political turmoil. 3 of these claimants would soon fall victim to the brutal realities of their ambition, while 1 man would emerge from the chaos to lay the foundation for Rome's second dynasty. Before the storm of civil war and bloodshed could fully erupt, it is essential to understand the men whose ambitions would reshape the destiny of an empire. Let us journey back in time to explore the lives of Galba, Otho, Vitellius, and Vespasian, a quartet of men whose careers, personalities, and motivations were as distinct as they were complex. Let's begin with Galba. Born into one of Rome's most ancient and venerable families, Galba was not a man molded by the glitter of court life, but by the austere rigor of military and provincial command. His early career saw him proving his mettle on the distant frontiers of the empire, an environment that honed his discipline and instilled in him a deep respect for the old Roman virtues. Galba was a traditionalist, a man who believed that Rome's greatness was built on simplicity, order, and honor. In his extensive service in the provinces, he developed a reputation for fairness, severity, and an unyielding commitment to duty. His ambition was driven not by a lust for personal luxury, but by a profound conviction that Rome needed a leader who could restore the dignity and discipline of a bygone era. Galba's motivations were as much philosophical as they were political. He saw the corruption and excess of imperial decadence as a betrayal of the Republic's storied past, and he longed to reclaim a purer, more virtuous Rome. Now, consider Otho. In stark contrast to Galba's rigid austerity, Otho was born into a world of privilege and cultivated refinement. His early life was steeped in the opulent circles of Rome's elite, where education, art, and rhetoric were as vital as military prowess. Otho's personal charm and innate political acumen allowed him to navigate the intricate labyrinth of court intrigue with ease. Unlike Galba, who was the embodiment of conservative discipline, Otho exuded an air of suave elegance and calculated ambition. His career before the tumult of civil war was marked by a series of high-profile political appointments and a reputation for decisive, sometimes daring, maneuvers behind the scenes. Beneath his polished exterior, however, lay a burning desire to prove that his refined sensibilities could translate into the kind of leadership that not only commanded respect, but also transformed the fabric of Roman society. Otho wasn't content to simply inherit the glories of the past. He sought to redefine what it meant to rule, to infuse the imperial office with a blend of cultured sophistication and unyielding authority. Then there is Vitellius, a man whose very name evokes images of both martial vigor and unrestrained indulgence. Vitellius' career was a study in contrasts. He cut his teeth on the battlefield, earning a reputation as a formidable military commander in campaigns that tested his resolve and strategic acumen. Yet, equally notable was his penchant for excess, a trait that set him apart from the more stoic figures of his time. Vitellius was a man of raw, unfiltered impulses. His experiences in the heat of combat were matched by his equally passionate approach to the pleasures of power, whether it was the lavish banquets, the exuberant displays of wealth, or the indulgence in the finer tastes of life that his position promised. This duality made Vitellius an unpredictable figure. On one hand, he was celebrated for his battlefield exploits and his capacity to rally troops with a charismatic intensity. On the other, his personal life was a whirlwind of extravagance that bordered on debauchery. His ambition was not tempered by a desire for moral rectitude, but was fueled by the intoxicating allure of both conquest and excess, a dangerous combination in the volatile political arena of Rome. Finally, we turn to Vespasian, a figure whose ascent to power was defined by grit, pragmatism, and a deep-rooted sense of responsibility. Unlike the others, Vespasian's origins were more humble, and his rise was not guaranteed by the silver spoon of noble birth. Instead, he earned his stripes through years of hard-fought military campaigns and unrelenting determination in the face of adversity. Vespasian's service in the legions took him to the far reaches of the empire, where his keen insight and tactical brilliance earned him the loyalty of his soldiers and the respect of local populations. His approach to leadership was practical and unsentimental. He saw the role of an emperor not as an opportunity for personal aggrandizement, but as a duty to restore order and stability to a realm that had long been plagued by internal strife. Vespasian's ambition was rooted in a vision of a reformed Rome, a Rome that could harness the strength of its military and the resilience of its people to overcome chaos and rebuild a more equitable society. His career, marked by hard-won victories and a deep connection with the common soldier, spoke to a man who understood that true power lay in the ability to lead with both courage and compassion.